In this video, we're going to talk about whether using new technology means that we're actually having any type of new learning. So, first, just what does technology change? We'll talk about pipes, refrigerated trucks, and playgrounds, and then the pick wrap model. To start with, I want to show you a little bit of a clip of a what they call the ISTE radio show from 2010. And this includes Lee Wolf, Punya Mishra, and Matt Kaler. And so we're just going to start in the middle of it. So just go along with it. It's kind of funny.
For too long, we have focused on using technology. Some focus has now shifted to integrating technology. But rather than using technology to do the same old things, what we need to do is think about innovating with technology. That is key.
This is a lot of fun, but I have to pay the bills. So here's another quick commercial break. Learning is changing, technology is changing. It's time that we change too.
I stand before you today to apologize. The system has failed you. I have failed you. I have failed to help you share your talent with the world when the world needs talent more than ever, yet it's being wasted every day by an educational system steeped in tradition and old ideas. Well, it's time for a new tradition. It's time to realize talent isn't just in schools like this one, it's everywhere. It's time to use technology to rewrite the rules of education. To learn how you learn so we can teach you better. It's time a university adapted to you rather than you adapting to it. It's time for a different kind of university. It's your time.
So, Punya, Matt, what do you think? What do we have to change?
Lee, it's interesting that you played that particular commercial. As it turned out, we saw the same commercial and we were deeply bothered by it. So Punya made his own version of that commercial. This is the age of the mashup, so we made a mashup of this commercial, a mashup with a TPAC twist.
Punya, can we see this new version?
Absolutely. Here it is.
The system has failed you. A system steeped in tradition and old ideas. It's time to realize. It's your time.
Okay, this is cool. So you are saying that it's not just about the pipes to transfer information, but rather thinking deeply about content and pedagogy that changes when we change these pipes?
Exactly. As the mashup says, technology changes everything. It changes what we teach, or the content, and how we teach, the pedagogy.
If I can jump in here,
All right, so you see on that how they show that oftentimes we're using technology just to do the same old thing. We're just using it to change the pipes. And we're delivering the same information, the same what we're learning, how we're learning through this passive listening, through the same pipes. That's traditional instruction. And technology sometimes is just used in that way. There's also been some talk that maybe technology is kind of like a delivery truck and it could be enhanced. For example, it could be refrigerated. So that way it could actually change how it's delivering something and enhance it some. Then there's also this talk about whether we can use technology to explore and play and share and create. And that's when it becomes more like a playground where it can actually provide some new type of learning. So we're going to look at the PICRAT framework right here. And the PICRAT has two parts, and it helps us think about whether how we're using technology is actually changing learning or if it's just doing the same old thing with different pipes. So the first part of PICRAT is about the student's relationship to the technology. Is the student using the technology in a passive way, like just watching it, interactive, where they're actually interacting with something, or are they actually creating something creative? That's pretty straightforward. The RAT, the RAT part, has to do with how the teacher is using it and how that compares to traditional practice. So is it just replacing what we would normally do, giving a lecture, giving a test, having students do worksheets? Is it actually amplifying or enhancing what we traditionally do, or is it actually transforming something? And this RAT actually originally was its own framework called the RAT, Replacement, Amplification, Transformation. So replace is when all we're doing is doing the same information, we're just changing the pipes, but it doesn't really change much at all. Amplify is when we have a delivery truck, and so it enhances the learning in some way. It's still similar to traditional practice, but it adds some elements that maybe makes it more efficient or more engaging or more effective in some ways. Transform is when we really are looking at how we traditionally learn and flipping it. So students creating things and sharing things instead of just passively listening and accepting. So this is the PICRAT matrix. You can see here the PIC, the passive interactive creative. This is students' relationship to the technology. This is the teacher's use of technology and what it does to this traditional practice. Does it replace what we usually do, or we used to do, amplify, or transform? Interestingly, what traditional practice is kind of changes over time. So that's something to think about when you're using this framework. So let's just look at a few things. How about watching an instructional video, like in this movie? Let's say you're watching the video, you could watch it on your roof, you could do however. Where would that go on this PICRAT matrix? Let me show you. Watching an instructional video is usually passive because you're just watching, and it's usually just replacing what you normally would do because normally you would just sit in the classroom and the teacher would talk to you. Now, this doesn't mean that it's a bad use necessarily, but it's not actually changing learning. It's just doing the same old thing with different pipes. How about this? What if we do something that's like Edpuzzle, where it's an interactive video and you're answering questions as you go? Well, I already told you that it's interactive, right? And I think maybe it's getting over to this amplifying learning. So I could do it in a classroom. If I was doing a lecture, I could ask questions and get responses from students, and that would be pretty traditional. But the ability of every student to answer the question and for me to see the answers of every student and letting students do that on their own timetable, that's kind of what pushes it a little bit more into amplifying. These aren't hard categories. They can be a little fuzzy. How about if students are actually creating a video to express their own ideas? So instead of just watching a video, they're creating. Well, that is now creative, right? They're creating something, and it's probably amplifying what they normally would do in school. So they might write reports and such in school, but this makes it a little bit more real and more integrating the things around them and the world around them to express something. And this is using an old tool called Adobe Spark. It's now been replaced with Adobe Creative Cloud. And then how about if they are actually sharing their video with professionals and receiving feedback for improvement? With the internet, we can actually collaborate with others, including professionals. Like NASA has a good network where students can connect with astronauts. That is where we're starting to transform. We're not just telling students stuff, we're having them try things and collaborate with others. And they're learning through those collaborations and those creations. So that's when we get to that creative transforming. Now, it doesn't mean that everything has to be up here in this corner, but it helps us think about whether our use of technology is actually changing anything. Let's do just a few more examples. How about digital flashcards? Where would digital flashcards go? I would put them probably on replace and interactive. So it replaces just those traditional memory tasks that we have always done, but it makes it interactive. You could maybe say it's amplifying because it has some gamification elements where it can give you scores, it can shuffle things. So that might amplify it a little bit beyond just regular flashcards, but somewhere in that area. How about if your students are blogging about community issues? So you have a classroom blog and they go in and they write about things that worry them or they care about in the community. Where would that go? That's where we're getting up here into we're creating stuff, we're creating this blog, and we're doing it about community issues. So we're actually being able to share what we're learning. So we're not just acquiring information, we're actually learning and expressing in order to change something around us. And that's where we get over to this transforming. All right, how about simulations? So this is, for example, a Desmos simulation where you can build bridges and you can see, I think these are two different. This is building bridges and you can do tests on them. And this is Desmos where you can interact with the equations and see how they affect the graph. These are more interactive. They maybe could come to creative, but they're not fully creative. But it is also pretty transformative because you're actually learning through playing with the tool. And when you play with the tool, you can see what the things do without someone telling you everything. So that's how we get over to the transforming. So the main takeaways from this is that technology, we often use it to replicate traditional practices. We're just showing a lecture on different devices. PicRat helps us think a little bit deeper, helps us think whether we're using it to support passive, interactive, or creative learning. And is it replacing, amplifying, or transforming traditional practice? Thanks for watching.